Hi guys, Happy New Year and welcome back to my channel, and this year you got some good stuff. But today we're going to be talking about Eve of the Daleks, the new episode that was released yesterday. So we're going to be running through it, talking about all the stuff that happened and just the overall opinions of the story and how I think it kind of went as an episode, because I do have some opinions on this that you may probably like, and stuff, that I think was good, some things that I think were bad. Things of just the general story, the feel of it, the general, how the story kind of went for me as a whole. So, hope you enjoyed the video, and please remember to subscribe. So basically, we start the story where we have this man, I think his name is Nick, and we have this woman, and she works there on New Year's Eve. Hence why it's probably called Eve of the Daleks. Do you get it? Like New Year's Eve, Yeah, that sort of stuff, basically, yeah. So basically they're there, and this woman's working quite late on New Year's Eve, because it's nearly midnight, the clock's ticking away, and she's with this man called Nick, and basically Nick's brought his old Monopoly set that he's going to put in his storage unit. So all goes well as the start of the story, and then after that happens, you just get Nick goes to put his thing in there, the Monopoly set in there, and then Nick gets, guess surprise surprise, exterminated by a Dalek who appears out of blooming nowhere. It's literally the Dalek's just like exterminate. It's literally like that. It's literally like that. Hence why I've got my giant Dalek here. I just thought I might show you that. He's just on the desk. Yeah, so basically, that's how it kind of starts. And then the woman, the Irish woman, she's a very good actress. She gets exterminated. Boom. And then we cut to this scene of the Doctor. Now, we have the Doctor, Yaz. And now I'm going to speak about Yaz in a minute and what I think of all that kind of stuff in a minute later. But we literally do have Dan and Yaz and the Doctor. They basically come out of the TARDIS, and the TARDIS is obviously gone all funny. She's like, oh, I'm going to reboot the TARDIS. And that solves the problem from Flux when it was all going all funny. So they did tie up some loose ends there, which I'm really appreciated that Chibnall actually tied up a loose end. This is something he's never done before, and now he's doing it. So, thankfully Chibnall can actually do things like this, and he's finally managed to tie up loose ends, which is quite good, and you kind of need it because, well, you kind of do. So that's what I kind of think about that, and TARDIS gets rebooted and all that sort of stuff, which is all well and nice, all that sort of stuff. But then we have the Doctor, Yaz and Dan. They then just go and investigate, and they find Nick's dead body on the floor, and they're like, oh my god, Nick's dead. And then, yeah, so basically then a Dalek comes out of nowhere again, and literally straight up exterminates the Doctor, Dan, and Yaz. Literally like extermination, which I do appreciate. I think it's quite cool to see the Doctor get exterminated. So, yeah, I really did enjoy that bit. So then we just cut back, and it's in time loop again. So we're all back to the start, and it's like, oh, deja vu. And then, it's really weird. It is very confusing. It's more like very timey-wimey sort of thing. It did remind me of a lot of previous Chibnall stories, particularly episode 3 of series 13. That one was very much like this, very, jumping back and forth and this kind of thing. But this is more in like a time loop sort of thing, like so the clock keeps on going round and all this sort of stuff, which is because the photo and the it's all very the clock and everything. So that's why I kind of think about that. So basically, when all that timey-wimey stuff happens, I do appreciate, though, every time they go back and they change something, apart from that happens in the thing, it becomes part of the the narrative way the story flows, which I really do enjoy that, because they don't just say, oh, well, you've made a mistake in that, so you'll go straight back to that. No, the story changes slightly, so they're in different places at different points before they get killed, which I really do enjoy that. I think that's really great, and I did enjoy how they did that. It was a lot better than, I say, Flux kind of did it, with a little bit of timey-wimey stuff. I could say that it's quite good. I think it works well. I suppose it's nice to have a base under siege story with all the characters together. I think that's kind of interesting, building on the characters together, togetherness. Really, I think it's really well done in that kind of respect. It's just the way it kind of just combines the story threads, and I think that worked very good. I do enjoy the scene with the Irish woman's mum, because she keeps on constantly contacting her, and I really do enjoy that. And the fact in the time loop she's saying the same thing: get the train, get the train, get the train, and get the train. It's basically like that, because they'll be jam packed. Basically, he was basically repeating like the lines like that, which I found really interesting, because the way the time loop was happening, it's all very confusing, and in fact it kept on going down 1 minute less, 1 minute less. It's like they had 1 minute less each time, which was really interesting, really kind of cut to the story threads and made it what it was. So I really did enjoy that kind of plot. But yeah, now let's kind of talk about characters in a way. Now, the Irish woman, I found she was very nice and worked very well. I like her relationship with Nick. I think her and Nick work really well together, and I think they do quite a good job as kind of one-off companions. It's kind of a little bit, like, romancy between them two, but not too romancy, which is quite good, because this is Doctor Who, and I don't really like romance in Doctor Who, because I think it's Doctor Who, isn't it? You don't really need romance unless, I don't know, yeah. But I do enjoy how it was kind of more subtle and really easier to approach, and I think that was kind of nice, and that kind of bit like that, I found that was very interesting, nonetheless. Now I'm just going to cut to something that I think should be a little bit of me talking about. The Doctor in this episode is still, I feel like Jodie Whittaker is a little bit better as the Doctor in this episode, but she still blurts tons of dialogue like she's spitting it up. But which I suppose you can kind of need the Doctor to explain stuff, but Jodie Whittaker explains it on a very rapid pace in this episode, which is okay, I suppose, but I'm glad it kind of got more toned down than in the previous episode. Yeah, I think it was kind of good how she doesn't say as much, which I kind of do like. But we didn't get to see any of that more darkness that we saw in the Vanquishers, but that wasn't even referenced at all, the Vanquishers. Yeah. But now let's cut something that I think is kind of interesting to speak about. The relationship between Yaz and Dan. Now, I do like this relationship. I think they're more like, really close friends and all that sort of stuff. But the bit I found really interesting is like, oh, we've been with each other for like 4 years now, and there's like all that sort of stuff. I do enjoy that, because it shows that they spent more time together, and it also shows that they're more friends than they were originally, because originally they didn't really like each other, I suppose. And yeah, I really like our relationship. But now let's get something into a little bit about Yaz in the story. Now, Yaz apparently is kind of falling in love with the Doctor. Now, I don't really like any of this Doctor falling in love with Companion or Companion falling in love with Doctor. I do not like that. This is exactly what happened with Rose from Series 2. And we don't want any of that. We don't want any flirty stuff. I'm done with the Doctor and Companion in love thing. I do not like that. That is the one thing that I have never liked. The same thing where Amy Pond was all getting all the hots for Matt Smith. I didn't really appreciate that in the 2010s. Even in 2006, I didn't really appreciate that either. But then again, that was quite a while ago. And also well, yeah, that's what I've got to say. if they've done it in the noughties, the tens, and now the 20s, I can't appreciate that. I don't like the Doctor, actually having a companion, but the companion is in love with the Doctor. I don't really like that. I thought they were kind of just friends, but I don't really, in a way, it's not my thing. I think, the Doctor shouldn't be in love with the companion shouldn't fall in love with the Doctor, and I kind of feel that's wrong, because if you've seen what happens with well, if I talk about a companion called Rose, now if you guys remember Rose Tyler, she fell in love with the Doctor and then got all cryy, lovey. I didn't appreciate that, and that was in Series 2, and I do enjoy Series 2, that's a brilliant series, but Rose Tyler, and the Doctor, I really don't like that. I find that, like that, I could understand if they did more like a friendly kind of thing, like, like Martha, she was kind of more friends, and Donna, those companions, and like Clara, more friends, that. They don't fall in love with the Doctor, and I don't want this to be expanded on, really. I want this kind of end here. If Chibnall wants to do that, then I suppose he can, but I'm just not a big fan of the companion being in love with the Doctor. I never really liked all that stuff. So that's what I kind of think about that. So now I'm just going to be talking about the Daleks in this story, because we haven't really spoken about them that much. So, the things I think about the Daleks as much in this story, I think that they do a very cracking job, really, because I do like how the gun blasters, like, pew, 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 and they've expanded this with like this massive rapid thing, instead of just the standard whisk with the little bing. And this time, do you know Daleks? Have you ever seen the Daleks? Do you know what they used to do in mainly old episodes? You would have the Daleks roll on, and basically they would just go boop, literally, and they would miss. Like, they would just go and then miss. But now Daleks have this great thing with this mighty spitter around, so basically they can just kill anyone in their blown path, which, I mean, is very good and does make them threatening again, and that's what Chibnall succeeds at. He can write Daleks well. Unfortunately, he never gives them a bigger story. If this story was in Series 13, I think it would have done super well. In fact, it's a special. I think my brother said, actually, that he didn't feel like a special. He said it was too short to be a special, which I suppose I can give my brother a benefit of the doubt and say, yeah, it was quite short as an episode. It was over quite quickly, and he said it maybe have done better if it had an hour and a half. That's what my brother said. Anyway, yeah, I think it probably would have done much better, taking my brother's words into account. Yes, that's what I kind of think about that. I do really enjoy how the Daleks, each time in the time loop, there keeps on appearing more of them. And let's go on to something a little bit weird. The fact is that a guy called Nick, he comes there every New Year's Eve to put his girlfriend's stuff there, which I don't think they're going to ask for any of their stuff back, because you've broken up, so I guarantee they probably wouldn't ask for any of their belongings back. I assume so. And he also catalogues them, which is very weird, and I find is very weird. And Jan asked a very good question: are they still all alive? Very good question to ask, considering she's a blooming police officer. But that never gets brought up, does it? But, never mind. That's just my little flaws I'm pointing out here. Yeah, so, that's what I kind of think of that. So that's kind of the episode in a whole, what I think of it, all bashed together, and, yeah. Apart from, I did enjoy the ending where the whole building blows up. I found that was very fun, and the fireworks. And then this random guy at the end. Now, this guy looked familiar to me. He may have looked familiar to you. But I swear it was the guy who was in The Woman Who Fell to Earth, the first episode with Jodie Whittaker. I swear it was the crane driver. He looked exactly like him. But, of course, it may not be, and I'm just talking rubbish. But I think it is him. It really strongly looked like him. I could be wrong there. And I will be doing a video about the Next Time trailer, and you'll see that at some point today or tomorrow. So, yeah, that's what I've got to say. and Happy New Year, and goodbye.